The crowd parted for her without realizing it, the way animals instinctively moved aside for fire. Her heels clicked against the marble floor as she walked straight toward the most dangerous man in the room. Liyun's eyes lifted lazily from his glass, locking on her like a sniper's aim. But before anyone could react, Sophia leaned down and pressed her lips against his. The kiss lasted only seconds, but when she pulled back, her eyes glittered with mischief. The bass thumped through the walls of the nightclub, a steady pulse that made the crystal chandeliers tremble. Seoul's elite crowded the floor, diamonds flashing, champagne flowing, laughter spilling like smoke. But Sophia Anderson wasn't impressed. She leaned against the bar, sipping her drink, the only Black American student in the room. Her friends' new classmates eager to break her out of her shell were already tipsy, daring each other into reckless fun. And then one of them, giggling too loudly, pointed across the club. "Okay, Sophia. Truth or dare?" Sophia arched an eyebrow. "Dare." The girl grinned wickedly, eyes landing on the man in the far corner. He sat in a private booth, surrounded by bodyguards who looked more like shadows than men. His black suit was sharp enough to cut glass. His jawline was carved, his dark eyes colder than winter. "That man," her friend whispered, almost nervously. "They say he's dangerous. They call him Liyun. Dare you to kiss him?" The table erupted in laughter. No one in their right mind would approach Liyun, let alone touch him. Whispers about him traveled across Seoul. Mafia, kingpin, untouchable. And one thing everyone knew, he hated women. He didn't let them near. But Sophia? She never backed down from a challenge. "Fine," she said, setting her glass down. "Now that," she whispered, "wasn't so scary." The club froze. The music, the laughter, even the air seemed to stop. Liyun didn't move. His glass tilted slightly in his hand, though his eyes never left hers. His guards were waiting for the order to kill, to disappear her into the night. But it never came. Instead, the corner of his mouth twitched the faintest flicker of something between shock and interest. Sophia winked, spun on her heel, and walked back into the crowd as though she hadn't just stolen the Mafia King's first kiss in public. For the first time in years, Liyun felt something other than boredom. And it burned. The next morning, Sophia woke to pounding on her dorm room door. Her roommate peeked out from under the blanket, whispering, "Sophia, who did you mess with last night? There are men in suits outside." Sophia groaned, dragging herself up. "Probably someone's father made me drink his expensive champagne." But when she opened the door, her smirk faded. Two towering men in black suits stood there. Sunglasses, earpieces, expressions carved from stone. "Miss Anderson?" one of them asked. His Korean was clipped, polite but with an edge that could slice. Yeah. You need to come with us." "Not without a reason," she shot back. The taller one leaned closer. "Liyun doesn't repeat requests." Her heart skipped. She had laughed off the dare last night, pretending it was nothing. But the Mafia King hadn't forgotten. Her roommate squeaked, disappearing back under the blanket. Sophia, however, lifted her chin. "Fine. Lead the way." They drove her in silence to a high-rise skyscraper in Gangnam, sleek glass gleaming under the sun. Sophia was escorted up to the penthouse, where the world seemed to pause again. And there he was. Liyun sat at the head of a long black table, shirt crisp, jacket tossed carelessly aside. His presence filled the room like smoke, silent, suffocating, inescapable. His eyes flicked over her once. "You're braver than you look." "Or dumber," she muttered, sliding into the chair opposite him. One of his men stiffened, but Liyun raised a hand. The silence was heavier than a shout. "You kissed me." His tone was flat, but underneath it was steel. "Do you know what happens to people who lay hands on me without permission?" Sophia shrugged, pretending her pulse wasn't racing. "What, you sue them? Send them a fruit basket?" For the first time, something cracked in his expression. His lips curved sharp, humorless. "No one has dared. Until you." She leaned forward. "So? What are you going to do about it? Kill me? Because if that's the plan, I should at least get lunch first." The guards shifted uncomfortably. No one spoke to Liyun like this. But instead of rage, his gaze sharpened with fascination. "You're reckless," he said slowly, almost to himself. "Reckless enough to walk into fire without knowing how hot it burns." Sophia smirked. "Maybe I like fire." Their eyes locked, hers playful, his unreadable. But beneath his calm exterior, something was unraveling. No woman had ever touched him without fear. No woman had looked at him without trembling. Yet this girl from Texas sat across from him, daring to flirt with death itself. And for reasons he couldn't explain, he didn't want her to stop. Sophia shifted in her chair, crossing her legs casually, though her insides were buzzing like fireworks. Liyun's gaze never left her, sharp as a scalpel. Finally, he leaned back in his chair, fingertips steepled. "You humiliated me." Sophia arched her brow. "Really?" "Because from where I was standing, you didn't seem too humiliated. More confused." One of his men stifled a laugh and froze when Liyun's head tilted slightly. The room turned to ice. Then his eyes returned to her. "You're bold. But boldness has a price." Sophia rolled her eyes. "Let me guess. Mafia King taxes?" His lips twitched just barely. He rose, walking slowly around the table until he stood directly behind her. His shadow fell over her as his voice brushed her ear. "Stay out of my world," he murmured, low and dangerous. "Or you won't leave it alive." Sophia's heart hammered, but she didn't flinch. Instead, she swiveled in her chair to face him, chin lifted. "Funny. Because I thought your world came crashing into mine the second you sent your bodyguards to my dorm." For the first time, silence stretched between them, not threatening, but charged. Liyun studied her, as though she were a puzzle that refused to be solved. He hated puzzles. He hated complications. But he couldn't look away. Finally, he spoke again, voice measured. "You want to play games? Fine. Here's the deal. You stay close, under my watch, until I decide you're no longer a threat." Her eyes widened. "Excuse me? You want me to what? Be your prisoner?" "Not a prisoner." His gaze dipped briefly, too briefly, to her lips. "A shadow." Sophia barked out a laugh. "Newsflash, Mafia King. I don't do shadows. I'm the main character." That earned a real smirk from him. Dangerous. Irresistible. "You'll regret that confidence," he warned. "Or maybe," she countered, leaning in, "you'll regret underestimating me." Their faces were inches apart. The air between them was no longer cold, it was burning. And for the first time in years, Liyun felt something he couldn't control. Obsession. Sophia had expected shadowing Liyun to mean sitting silently in the corner while he ran his shady empire. Instead, she found herself being chauffeured in sleek black cars, dragged into high-end clubs, private meetings, and even restaurants where the air smelled like money and danger. Everywhere she went, eyes followed. Whispers trailed her. Who was this girl bold enough to sit beside the Mafia King? She played it cool, but inside her stomach twisted. It was ridiculous. This was supposed to be temporary. A punishment. Yet somehow, every time she caught Liyun watching her, and he always was, her pulse tripped. One night, he brought her to a rooftop lounge. Sowo glittered below, music thumped softly in the background, and his men lingered at a respectful distance. Sophia leaned back on the sofa, sipping her mocktail. "So, do I just sit here while you brood like some villain out of a Kdrama? Because I gotta tell you, Mafia King, it's starting to feel like babysitting." His jaw tightened. "You think this is a game?" She smirked. "No. I think you're the game." The words hung between them, sharper than glass. His eyes narrowed, and she thought she had finally pushed him too far. Then, out of nowhere, laughter slipped from his lips. Almost disbelieving. Her chest tightened. Had she just made the infamous Liyun laugh? He leaned closer, his cologne wrapping around her like smoke. "Careful, Sophia. Men have died for less." She didn't back down. "Good thing I'm not like most men." Later that night, a group of his associates arrived. Among them was a woman in a tight crimson dress who immediately draped herself across Liyun's arm. Sophia stiffened. The woman purred something in Korean, and Liyun didn't push her away. He didn't encourage it either, but the sight lit something hot and ugly in Sophia's chest. She told herself she didn't care. She was here because she had to be. But when the woman leaned closer, whispering in Liyun's ear, Sophia slammed her glass down a little too hard. Everyone turned. Liyun's gaze snapped to her, almost amused. "Problem?" he asked, voice deceptively calm. Sophia lifted her chin, fire blazing in her eyes. "Your date's sitting on my seat." A hush fell. His men looked like they'd seen a ghost. No one spoke to him like that. Liyun's lips are curved, slow and dangerous. He gently peeled the woman's hand from his arm and stood. His towering presence loomed over Sophia as he extended a hand to her. "Then take your seat," he murmured, his gaze never leaving hers. Her breath caught. And for the first time, she realized he wasn't just letting her into his world. He was choosing her. The car ride back from the rooftop lounge was silent, but it wasn't peaceful. It was charged. Liyun sat with one elbow resting against the door, his sharp profile lit by the glow of Seoul neon skyline. His men drove up front, careful not to glance back, but Sophia could feel the tension wrapping around them like a storm about to break. She should have been scared. Instead, she was restless. Her knee bounced, her chest tight with the memory of his hand reaching for hers, his voice telling her to take her seat. "Why'd you do that?" she blurted. He didn't move. Didn't even blink. Do what? Send her away like that. In front of everyone. People looked at me like I'd just staged a coup. Finally, his gaze shifted to her. The unreadable. Because she wasn't you. Her heart skipped. She turned her face toward the window quickly, hiding the stupid smile tugging at her lips. The next day, Liyun decided Sophia should learn something about survival. Which apparently meant teaching her how to handle a gun. The warehouse smelled of oil and steel, lit by dim bulbs swinging overhead. His men stayed back as Liyun pressed a sleek pistol into her hands. Feet apart. Elbows firm. "Don't think. Aim." His voice was low, guiding. She tried, but the recoil nearly sent her flying. "Damn," she yelped, stumbling. Strong hands caught her waist before she could fall. For one frozen second, her back was against his chest, his breath hot against her ear. "Too soft," he murmured, steadying her grip. "But you'll learn." She swallowed hard. "What if I don't want to learn?" He leaned closer, his lips brushing dangerously close to her temple. "You dared to kiss me, Sophia. You don't get to be afraid now." Her stomach flipped, but she tightened her hands around the pistol, refusing to let him win. That night, at a private dinner with his lieutenants, the game twisted again. Sophia sat beside Liyun, quietly minding her food, when one of the men leaned across the table. A tall, cocky lieutenant with a scar across his jaw. "You're braver than you look," he said to her, smirking. "Most girls don't last a day around our boss. Maybe you should sit with me next time instead, The table chuckled. Sophia opened her mouth to retort, but she didn't get the chance. Liyun's hand clamped down on the man's wrist, the sound of bone grinding against bone echoing in the air. The laughter died instantly. Liyun's voice was calm, almost soft, but deadly. "Touch her with your words again, and I'll cut out your tongue." The man paled, nodding furiously as Liyun released him. Silence fell. Sophia's fork hovered midair. She wanted to be furious at his overreaction, at the blatant violence. But her heart was hammering. Not from fear. From the way he'd looked at her. As if she already belonged to him. And deep down, she wondered if she was already starting to let herself believe it. Liyun hated being out of control. Control was everything. It kept his empire sharp, his enemies on their knees, his name feared from Seoul to Shanghai. But lately, control has been slipping. And the culprit was sitting across from him in his penthouse dining room, humming to herself while picking through a bowl of strawberries as if she owned the place. "You're in my house again," he said flatly, sipping his whiskey. Sophia looked up, smirking. "Correction. You brought me here. Don't act like I broke in." His jaw tightened. She was right. He had told his driver to collect her after class, no explanation. And she hadn't protested. She bit into a strawberry slowly, deliberately, red juice staining her lips. "You know," she said, her voice casual but eyes glinting with mischief, "for someone who claims to hate women, you sure keep me around a lot." His gaze snapped to her mouth. then back up. Dangerous. You're not most women, he muttered. Is that your way of saying I'm special? She leaned forward, chin propped on her hand. Because if the great Liyun thinks I'm special, I might just start bragging. The smirk tugging at his mouth was involuntary. He covered it with another sip of whiskey. Sophia decided to push harder. She rose from her chair, circling the table slowly until she was standing right behind him. He didn't move, but every muscle in his body was taut. She leaned down, her lips hovering dangerously close to his ear. Tell me, Mafia King, was that little outburst at dinner about protecting me or about staking a claim? He inhaled sharply. Her laughter soft, teasing slid down his spine like silk. What's the matter? Cat got your tongue? He shot up so fast the chair scraped against the floor. In one swift move, he had her pinned against the wall, his hand braced beside her head, his eyes burning into hers. Don't play games you can't win, Sophia. His voice was low, rough, almost a growl. But Sophia only tilted her head, lips brushing his jaw as she whispered, Who says I'm not winning already? For the first time, Liyun realized what it felt like to be hunted instead of the hunter. And damn, it shook him to his core. The university's annual cultural gala was supposed to be harmless. Music, food, students showing off dances and traditions from around the world. Harmless. At least, that's what Sophia thought when she slipped into a sleek red dress and let her roommate drag her along. She hadn't expected him to show up. Liyun was the kind of man who lived in shadows, not in brightly lit auditoriums filled with college kids. Yet there he was, sitting in the back row, his black suit crisp, his expression unreadable. Watching her. Always watching. Sophia decided then and there that if he was going to stalk her like some brooding statue, she was going to make him sweat. When a tall exchange student, handsome, polite, with a Spanish accent, asked her to dance during the open floor segment, she said yes. The music was lively, the kind that demanded movement. Sophia laughed as her partner twirled her curls bouncing, her red dress swirling like fire around her legs. She was having fun. Free, light, unbothered. Until she saw him. Liyun was no longer in his chair. He was standing at the edge of the dance floor, his gaze locked on her like a predator sizing up prey. His jaw was clenched, his hands shoved in his pockets, his aura radiating pure possession. Her dance partner leaned close, whispering something in her ear that made her laugh again. And that was the last straw. In less than a heartbeat, Liyun was there. One hand gripped Sophia's wrist, the other pressed against the small of her back as he yanked her away from the startled student. She's done dancing with you, Liyun said, his voice like steel dipped in ice. The boy stammered. Two didn't. But Liyun didn't spare him a glance. His entire focus was on Sophia, who was staring up at him with wide eyes and the beginnings of a smirk. Excuse me, she said, her tone teasing but her pulse racing. Since when do you get to decide who I dance with? He leaned in close, his breath hot against her ear. Since the moment you kissed me and made me lose my mind. Her heart skipped. The room, the music, the people, all of it disappeared. It was just his voice, low and raw, confessing what he'd sworn he'd never feel. Jealousy doesn't suit you, Mafia King, she whispered, tilting her chin up. Then stop giving me reasons to feel it. Declaration. Every step said, she's mine. And Sophia? She wasn't sure if she wanted to fight him anymore. The gala ended in chaos. Whispers spread fast. Who was that terrifying man who stormed the dance floor and practically dragged Sophia away? But Sophia barely heard them. Liyun hadn't let go of her hand once, not until they were outside under the cool night sky. Are you insane? She snapped, yanking her hand free. You can't just claim me like that in front of everyone. He didn't answer immediately. His chest rose and fell, his gaze scanning the street as if searching for danger no one else could see. His shoulders were tense, his jaw locked. Then out of nowhere he shoved her against the wall. Don't you understand? His voice was harsh, but his eyes were glass, flickering with something fragile beneath the fury. If anyone sees you with me, you're already marked. They'll come for you. They'll use you against me. Sophia froze. This wasn't arrogance. This wasn't control. This was fear. real raw fear. He turned his head, as if ashamed she'd seen the crack in his mask. But she reached up, touching his cheek lightly. "You're not as untouchable as you pretend to be, are you?" she whispered. His hand caught hers, pressing it hard against his skin, as though he wanted the comfort but couldn't admit it. "You shouldn't be near me," he muttered. "I ruin everything I touch. Especially women." Her heart twisted at the bitterness in his voice. "Who hurt you like that?" He flinched, the Mafia King, flinching like a boy caught in a truth too sharp to swallow. Sophia leaned closer, her lips barely a breath away from his ear. "You don't scare me, and I'm not leaving just because you think you're broken." Something in him snapped. Not anger, something deeper. He pressed his forehead against hers, his grip on her hand trembling now instead of crushing. "I don't know how to do this," he confessed hoarsely. "I don't know how to want someone without destroying them." Sophia smiled softly, even as her heart pounded. "Then let me teach you." For the first time, the Mafia King didn't look like a ruler or a monster. He looked like a man haunted, scarred, but desperately reaching for the one person who dared to step past his walls. And in that fragile silence, with the city buzzing faintly around them, Sophia realized she wasn't just daring him anymore. She was falling. The next morning, Sophia tried to pretend everything was normal. She went to campus, grabbed her usual coffee, and even joked with her classmates. But she couldn't shake the memory of Liyun's trembling voice against her ear. She wasn't sure what unsettled her more, his confession or the way her heart had leapt to answer it. Find out what happens in their relationship in the next episode, which is coming up soon, by clicking on the notification icon. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please do not forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Also tell us the country you are watching us from in the comments section so that we will make a story for you.